Welcome back, everybody. This is my Premier League predictions video. I'm gonna be doing it in a tiered style. We have Champions, Champions League, Europa Conference League, higher mid-table, lower mid-table, and relegation battle. I also have a tab open to be able to see all the transfers for every single club. So let's get started, and I will be doing this in alphabetical order. So let's start off with Arsenal. Now, I think Arsenal are by far the most complete team. When you look at the teams that are in and around the spots for Champions League, I think all of them are in a transition season, like Chelsea, City, United, Liverpool, and Arsenal look the most complete side. And as we can see from the transfers, they have obviously bought Bruno G, Solis, they have confirmed the signing of Hincapie. Meli is just a backup signing, and no notable sales, only backup players. I mean, Solis has replaced Trossard, Norgard has been replaced by Bruno G, and Kivior wasn't even there last season. And they could still sign another player in attack, and they are signing Ezri Konsa as another defender in the squad. And with that being said, I just don't see a way where they don't finish as the Premier League champions this season. I just don't see a true challenging team that has the pieces to challenge over the entirety of the season. And yeah, Arsenal, I don't want to say they're going to cruise the league, but I think they'll have a good time in the league, and I think they'll be a huge challenger for the Champions League as well. Now, next up, we have Aston Villa, and Aston Villa have struggled in the transfer window. The sales are pretty big. Morgan Rogers, Yuri Tielemans, Daniel Malen, Digne is gone, Ezri Konsa is leaving, as I just mentioned, to Arsenal. And they have signed some signings, Bisaka and Garnacho as loan signings with options or obligations, Ruggieri to replace Digne, Suzuki to replace Emi Martinez, who's possibly leaving, Joao Gomez and Manzambi to help replacing Tielemans and Morgan Rogers. But with that being said, I don't know how much I trust this team. There are issues in their squad depth. They are obviously in the Champions League, and I don't know if they can replace what Morgan Rogers and Yuri Tielemans were offering this team last season. So with that being said, I have them just missing out on both UCL and Europa League football and have them finishing in seventh spot. Now, next off, we have Bournemouth. To look a bit into depth on their signings and sales, they have signed Antonio Silva, a centre back from Benfica, to replace Marcus Senesi, who's left to Spurs on a free. Alvaro Rodriguez as another option in their attacking depth. Juan Lu Sanchez as a new right back to replace Jimenez, who has left to Fiorentina. And again, no noticeable sales other than Marcus Senesi, who has again been replaced by Antonio Silva. But they are in the Europa League this season. They don't have the most deep squad, and I do think they will have some sort of regression in the league. And I think the teams around them, there's a bunch of teams around them that are kind of in the same boat, some of which are in Europe, some of which aren't. And I think they will struggle. And for now, I'm going to have them in this, but it's at the lower side of this, so probably 12th or 13th, and I'll iron that out in the end. The next team is Brentford. Honestly, I really, really like what Brentford have done this window. They have no main sales that have left the club, and Mamadou Sangar is one of my favorite transfers of the entirety of the window. I think I'm really surprised to see him go to Brentford and not go to a top club like United, Spurs, or Liverpool, or somewhere outside of Prem even. But he is such a top player, and I can easily see him being sold next summer for 100 million because of how good of a player he actually is. Yannick Schuster is another center back in the squad, and you have these two pieces who I think are very underrated signings because Callum Wilson is a backup to Igor Thiago, and Jaden Anthony is gonna get you goals. I mean, we saw that last season. I think he had nearly 10 Premier League goals, and both of these will really help them going forward. And with this team not having Europa League football or Conference League football or any European football at that, I think they will thrive in the league because again, the teams in around them like Bournemouth, Brighton, who else? Who else do we have? Even like Sunderland, Villa, all of these teams have European football. And by playing once a week, by now having this better depth up top, by having a nice younger midfield with Sangare, Yarmolyuk, who's going to improve. Sangare, I think, is going to improve throughout the entire season. You held on to Kayode. You still have pretty good depth. I think Kevin Shade and Dango Atara will have good seasons. So this could be a bit of a surprise, but I do have them in 8th place. So in this higher mid-table side, but I do have them as the 8th side. Anyways, next up, Brighton. Brighton have been quite active this window. Obviously, Van Hecke has been sold and they have replaced him with Luka Vuskovic. Carl Rushworth has left on a permanent deal, but he wasn't there last season. Same thing with Coppola, who didn't play for them last season. I think the main sale is Danny Welbeck and Carlos Baleba, who looks to be joining Manchester United. But they do have Costulas, they do have Evan Ferguson back on his loan, they still have Tsimas, and they have also signed Promise David on a loan. They also signed different players to add to their depth, especially with Europa League football. Zadok Johanna, who looks like a very, very exciting Nigerian prospect from the Swedish league. Pascal Struijk, Coutinho, and Svoboda as more defensive options to give them more size, more rotation options, again, especially with European football. And I think they're a nice squad. I think there will be a lot of rotation with Prem and Conference League, but the main focus is the Premier League because you can rotate in the Conference League as we saw with Premier League teams doing over the past few seasons. And with that being said, I think Brighton will finish in this higher mid-table zone, and I do have them as the number 9 spot. Now, next we have Chelsea. Chelsea is a very interesting one. So the main thing I think is that they now have Xabi Alonso at the helm, and they have made a bunch of signings as they usually do, and they have also made some sales. So let's start off with the sales. André Santos has left to join Manchester United. Cucurella has left to join Madrid. Chalobah has left to join Como. And Tyreek George's loan at Everton has become a permanent deal. And Satpaev, Garnacho, Jorgensen are out on loan, but none of these are a really prominent player in the squad. And the players that have come in are very interesting. Morgan Rogers at 140 million euros, which is a hefty price. But with that being said, Morgan Rogers, Joao Pedro, and Cole Palmer is going to be a very exciting front three. You have signed Maxence Lacroix to be the leader in that back three, and now you have the likes of Lacroix, Colwell, you still have Fofana, you have many other center backs, you still have Reece James that can play there, and I think they are very well improved in the defensive options. Palestra can play on both wing backs. As we know, the wing backs are very important in Alonso's system, and Palestra will probably be one of those throughout the entirety of the season. Quenda can play in the front three behind the striker or even at wing back, and I think people forget that Chelsea have signed him because this deal was confirmed, I believe, last January or throughout last season. Valentin Barco is a player I really like. Emmanuel Omega is a backup striker that they signed, both from Strasbourg. Barco can play as well wing back, midfield. He's pretty versatile. I think he'll do pretty decent. And the main replacement for Marc Cucurella is a Spanish guy, Pep Chavaria, who came from Rayo Vallecano. He is a decent signing. Will he light the world on fire? I don't think so. But is he a sensible, decent, good, energetic signing that will help Xabi Alonso? I do think so, yes. And you still have the likes of Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck, who were signed mainly as rotational options. Henderson, I don't imagine him to play any minutes. Danny Welbeck, I do imagine him to play some minutes. He is probably their backup number 9, with Liam Delap and Nicholas Jackson being linked with a move away from Chelsea. And with Danny Welbeck joining, you have a figure in the squad that will provide leadership and experience. Same thing with Jordan Henderson, but Danny Welbeck also offers the side that will actually play. And I think the likes of Cole Palmer and Joao Pedro will have amazing seasons. I think Cole Palmer will go back to how good he was. Reece James will benefit from this team having one game a week with no European football, and I think as a whole they will benefit from this. And I do have them finishing in the Champions League spots, and we'll get to the order of that later on once we get to the other teams. Now, Coventry. I struggle to see the teams that have been promoted from the Championship to stay up this season, if I'm being honest. And this is not to say that I don't like the recruitment these teams have done. This is not to say that I don't like the teams. But I just struggle to find a world where one of the teams that is currently in the Premier League or that was in the Premier League last season and survived will drop down this season. And with that being said, I actually really like Coventry's business. Yerinki, Rushworth, Sheriff, Chuana, Amanda, Awoni, Onyeka, Gustavo Amr is back. I mean, especially Awoni, who I think can score 7 to 10 Premier League goals this season. Amanda is a very good centre back who I think will stay in the Premier League should Coventry get relegated. Chuana has been moving on from clubs. He was first at Lazio last year at Burnley and now at Coventry, so he will hope to find his feet at this new club. Siddiqui Sheriff is more of a rotation option. He's not very well proven at the top level. He was at Fenerbahce and before that I believe he was at Angers in Ligue 1. Carl Rushworth was their goalkeeper last season, and Caleb Rinky is actually a very, very promising young midfielder who I think could do very well. But with that being said, I don't know if I can see them staying up. But I do think they will have the best season from the promoted sides, and I do believe they will finish in 18th spot. Okay, so next team up, we have Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace will struggle. They obviously have European football, and none of their signings really excite me. Dwight McNeil, Khalaili, who's decent, he's okay. Mingueza and Tomias are all just okay signings. Xavier Gozo is an exciting signing, but he is still young and he is unproven. And I just don't think they have really replaced Maxence Lacroix. You might see Shad Riyad get a lot of minutes, who I don't rate very highly. We obviously saw the Johnson McNeil swap, but Glasner is gone. I again don't rate the depth of the squad, especially with Europa League football, and I think they're gonna struggle heavily. And I'm gonna have them in the lower mid-table spots, and I'll decide on the order later. But that's what I have for now. Similarly, Everton, they don't have European football, but I don't love their signings. Brennan Johnson, again, as we just talked about, for McNeil. Merlin Roll confirmed, Tyreek George confirmed. So basically, these two were already there last season. Brennan Johnson just replaces Dwight McNeil, and Hackney and Norgard replace Idrissa Gueye. Their midfield looks good. You still don't have a right back. You still don't have a proper striker. The wing depth is okay, and I just don't love the team. I don't love the team at all. I think they're gonna struggle. I don't think they have the depth. I don't think they have a whole lot of quality. And again, they're gonna struggle without a proper striker. I don't rate Barry or Beto at all as a starting Premier League striker for a team that has higher aspirations than finishing in where I'm going to put them. But with that being said, I'm going to put them in the lower mid-tier table, but I'm gonna have them, I believe, over Crystal Palace. Fulham it's an interesting one because I feel like a lot of people are very confused because obviously they lost Antonio Silva, they lost Raul Jimenez, they lost Harry Wilson, Issa Diop and Lukic are also gone. It's a weird place to be with the squad because the players they brought in, Gonzalo Garcia, Cesar Palacios, Sierra Charles, they confirmed the signing of Kusi Asare, who didn't play last season. But Garcia and Palacios are unproven. Do I think they will be good? I actually do. I think Garcia can get 10 to 12 Premier League goals this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I think Arbeloa will do a better job than people think he will. And I think they will be relatively fine, but I still do have them in the lower mid-tier table, but I do have them above Everton and above Crystal Palace. But the issue with them is replacing the output that Raul Jimenez and Harry Wilson provided you with last season and all the season before. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I think Oscar Bob, Cesar Palacios, and especially Kevin will have huge seasons. Joshua King as well, and as I said, Gonzalo Garcia, and I really rate Che Charles. So it's an interesting squad, but I don't know. I've seen some people put them in the relegation zone. I've seen some people put them as high as eighth. It's a bit confusing, but that's where I have them. Okay, so next up we have Hull City. I have them firmly in 20th. I actually rate a lot of their signings, and I think they are great signings. But I think the overall quality of the squad is actually not there. I don't think they should have got promoted. I think they were lucky to get promoted last season, and I didn't even think they had the squad to get promoted, but they did get lucky. But again, I like the signings, but even with that, I just don't rate their chances. You have Jack Butland as your new keeper. You sign a lot of, I don't want to say unproven players, but a lot of young players. Lucas Harrington has never played in Europe. Herto Dahl has only played in Norway. Nobel Mendy is a good signing. Zoulakis is very highly rated in Greece. Joe Gellhart is decent. Gorna Duath is a very good signing for the price they paid for him. Elliot Stroud is decent. It's good signings, but again, the depth is not there. The quality of the entire squad is not there. And do they have a striker that can score them goals? I don't think so. Is Ollie McBurney that? I don't think so. So I think they will be the worst of the promoted teams, and they will finish 20th. And between them will be Ipswich Town. Again, the promoted teams don't fill me with a lot of confidence. They have made some decent signings. Um, I feel like they're all trying to follow what Sunderland did last season, but I think the profile of names that Sunderland got last season is higher than what Coventry, Hull, and Ipswich are being able to do. Enciso is good. Emerson is unproven. Fatau is okay, but as well, I don't know how good he can be. Abdul Ouattara is a good versatile midfielder. Florentino Luis is good. Lukic is decent. Sherpin is a good tall keeper. Diop has Premier League experience. Maeda can be good. It's a good squad, and it's okay, you know. But I don't think these three teams have the overall quality to beat any of the teams over the entirety of the season in this lower mid-table spots. So that's what I have the relegation battle as: Coventry 18, Ipswich 19, and Hull City in 20th. Next team is Leeds, who I have in 10th spot. Now, Leeds, in my opinion, have maybe the best window, really, because you strengthen your defense, you replace Pascal Stroik with Moharovic and Nico Elvedi, you improve your attacking options with Harry Wilson, and you sign England's future number one goalkeeper James Trafford. And I don't believe they're finished. I still believe they're going to sign another attacker. Is it the most extravagant window in terms of numbers and names? Maybe not. But I think all four of these signings are good. Elvedi and Wilson are cheap. Wilson on a free. Trafford, you pay premium. But that's what you have to pay for a 23-year-old future England number one from Man City. Same thing with Moharovic. But if they do sign another left winger, you still have the likes of Anton Stach, Tanaka, Ampadu, and there is a lot of quality within the squad. And you have Calvert-Lewin, who will hopefully get you goals. They don't have European football, with Brighton, Bournemouth, Sunderland having European football, even Aston Villa. And I think they'll be pretty good. And I think they're going to be finishing in 10th. Next up, Liverpool, my club, my team who I support. Now, this could be biased, but listen, the window we've had so far, you've only signed Araujo, Munoz, and Jake. Is that enough? No. Do I think we need more, way more? Yes. I believe Barcola will be joining. I believe another winger will also be joining. Do we still need probably a right back? Yes. Do we need a DM? Definitely. Or another man in midfield. But Jeremy Jacquet is, in my opinion, one of the best young centre-backs in the world and has the potential to be in the conversation for the best centre-backs in the world come the end of the season. Victor Muniz is a good depth piece in both wing options. Same thing with Rio, who's going to get more minutes this season. Araujo is a signing that I actually like. I think he offers depth. I think he can play left back and right back. He's a physical presence. He has space. He can cover space. And you're playing next to Van Dijk, so you don't really need to be doing much. My issue is you've sold Andy Robertson, you sold Konate, and you sold Mo Salah, but you still haven't really replaced Robertson or Salah. Konate is replaced by Jake. But big seasons will be needed from Jake, from Leone, from Rio, from Trey Nyoni, who I expect to get a step up, even the likes of Frimpong, and you have to expect Isaac and Verts to put up a better season than they did last season. But with what I see being done by Liverpool by the end of the summer transfer window, I think they will finish in second. Is that a surprise? Yes. Is that a bit of bias? I also believe yes. But with the incomings I expect, and even the outgoings with potentially selling Gakpo, this is how I expect Liverpool to end up. Okay, next up we have both Manchester teams. Now, I expect a drop off in Man City this season. You have basically only signed Elliot Anderson, while you've sold Reinders, Rodri, Trafford, who you replaced with Rulli, so doesn't really matter. Ake and Akanji are out. Stones, Bernardo are all out, and Pep is gone. Now, I think there is an issue within the squad with Rodri leaving, especially. Savinho is going to leave and Omar Marmoush is going to leave, so that is an issue. But if we look at the whole of the squad, you have options, okay? You have defensive options. You have center backs, Husanov, Diaz, Guardiol, Gehi, Vitor Rice is still there, O'Reilly, Ait Nouri, Nunez, Rico Lewis. So I think they're fine in that aspect. But the issue with me is backup striker, if Marmoush leaves. Wingers, Savinho is gone. Here we go, confirmed to Tottenham. We saw Jack Grealish be their first sub off the bench against Arsenal Community Shield, which is a huge issue. I don't know about Phil Foden's chances of playing as well as he played in the season where he won Player of the Season. Kovacic should not be starting for you in 2026. Nico Gonzalez looks to be on his way out, maybe. And even if you sign Buwadi, I don't know. I think the midfield three is a big issue. Even if it's Anderson, Buwadi, Anderson, and whoever it is, right now you have three DMs. Sure, you can play Rico Lewis there. You could play Mateus Nunes there. You can play O'Reilly there. But you don't have a proper DM that is replacing Rodri. Is Anderson that? To an extent. But again, you're replacing the best midfielder in the world, a Ballon d'Or winner. And I don't think they've done that. And I don't think they should be relying on Kovacic a whole lot, even on Phil Foden, even on Jack Grealish. So I think there is an issue with the depth of the squad. And with Maresca and the loss of Guardiola, I think it's going to be a transition year for them, and I'm going to have them in fourth place. I think Chelsea just pipped them with no European football, with probably a more balanced and deep squad, and a better manager. So that's where I have Man City. And in fifth place, I have Manchester United. I think they have had a good transfer window. Andre Santos, Tielemans, and Baleba are the main signings. I still think defensively they need more reinforcements in the fullbacks, especially. They still need a backup striker. I don't know if Zirkzee can really be that. Rashford is back from loan, so that's almost like a new signing as a new left winger. But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't rate Michael Carrick all that much, and I think he will struggle this season. They're going to have UCL football, and I mean, if I have them finishing in fifth, it's not that much of a struggle. I think their midfield is good. Sesko is going to have a better season. Bem will have a better season. But I just think the depth, especially of the defense and attack, I mean, now you're going to probably have Mbuemo starting as the number 9, which is not the best. Dorgu maybe on the left, which again is not the best. Ahmad on the right. I don't love Ahmad, but that's not a front three you want to be having, even if it's just a temporary front three with Dorgu. Ahmad and Buemo for the start of the season. Um, I don't love their depth again. I don't love Carrick, so I'm gonna have them in fifth. Newcastle. Newcastle have lost a lot of players. Newcastle have lost big names. They've lost Tonali, Bruno G, Anthony Gordon, Trippier is gone, and Eddie Howe is also gone. Matthias Jasle, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He is their new manager. I rate him. He is a winner. He has won in most of his jobs. Whether it's enough to say he's going to do well at Newcastle, probably not. But I like the way they're going with the signings. They've signed two keepers, Horncheck and Jowen. I think Horncheck will be the starter. Schanster, unproven. Bamba, unproven. Do I think they're going to be good? Actually, yes. I think they'll grow into it throughout the entirety of the season. Amar Daric is a decent right back, and I really like Bazumana Toure. They don't have European football. And again, this conversations keep coming up. When you look at Brighton, European football, Bournemouth, European football, Crystal Palace, European football, Villa, European football, Sunderland, European football. I think they're going to be good, honestly. I think they'll be fine. I don't think there's going to be a huge regression. And I think in terms of league place, I believe this is a step up in terms of where they finished last season. And I'm going to have them in 11th spot, I believe. And yeah, I expect big seasons from most of the new signings. Will Livramento maybe leave? Will Lewis Hall leave? Maybe. And we'll see how they replace them if that happens. But I like the squad again, and I really love Lewis Miley. I think Wisa will have better season, Voltemara as well, and I really like William Asula as well. Anyways, next up, the two teams that will complete the lower mid-table side. Nottingham Forest, who I believe will finish in 14th spot, and Sunderland, who I believe will finish in 17th spot. 14th, we have Nottingham Forest. You obviously have Oli Glasner, who is their new manager. You've really only made two signings, Usman Diomande and Schlager, because Gustavo Sa is out on a loan to Olympiacos. You have lost Elliot Anderson, which you have not filled that gap, and that is a big issue. Usman Diomande is a signing to play, I believe, right centre back in the back three in Ole Glasner's system. I don't know if they have the midfield depth. I don't know if I rate their chances that highly. I don't think they have the wing backs to play in Ole Glasner's system. I think Aina and Nico Williams are both fullbacks rather than wing backs. And I think they will be missing Elliot Anderson a lot. And I do think Igor Jesus will have a big season. I do think some of these players will have big seasons, like Jesus, like Gibbs White, even like Usman Diomande. They have a decent defense. But I think the depth isn't ultimately there. I don't love the strengthening of the squad, especially, like I said, the wing back and midfield, and even in attack, it's not looking the best. So I have them in 14th place. 17th might come as a surprise. Sunderland, last season surprise. They finished in the Europa League spots. And the real reason why I have them here is that, yes, they haven't made a lot of changes to the squad from last season, but that is also the issue. You are now a Europa League squad. You have to juggle 4 competitions. Well, mainly now, let's say for the first half of the season, 2 major ones in the Europa League and the Premier League. The Premier League is not getting easier. Towards the end of last season, they were not looking good. They started to lose more points and drop points against sides that maybe you'd expect them to beat. They actually beat Chelsea on the last day, which helped them reach Europa League. But there is not enough depth in the squad at all. You made one signing, which is Thomas Munier, who is going to be a backup right back, and that is not enough for a squad that is making Europa League football. There's no real backup striker behind Robbie. There's no proper right wing. There is not enough depth in all positions to compete in the Europa League and Premier League. And I think they're going to struggle. And I think they're going to have this second season syndrome with newly promoted sides that struggle in their second season. And I did say this, I believe, in February to a cousin of mine, that I believe Sunderland are an underdog to get relegated this season. And that's why I have them in 17th spot. Finally, Tottenham Hotspur, 6th. You have De Zerbi, who's basically a new manager. You have had an incredible window. You've signed Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, Jean-Paul Van Hecke, Andy Robertson, Marcus Senesi, Dubravka as a backup, and now Savinho and possibly Marmoush as well, and maybe even Gakpo. Now, you've also lost the likes of Spence, Romero, and Vuskovic. Some players have also left, like Bissouma, Palini, and Colomani's loan is ended. Vicario's is out on loan, but the depth that they now have, the quality that they have improved on all the places that they haven't had last season and the season before where they finished 17th. De Zerbi is taking on an approach that I really like with the squad, and you've signed players that are literally only from the Premier League. They're only Premier League proven players that will essentially raise both the floor and the ceiling of your team, because there's a lower possibility of these players failing. Is there a possibility? Of course, there always is. This is football. I mean, nothing is certain. But when you sign Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandes to improve that midfield that you've been struggling with for God knows how long, you're improving on the defense with Senesi and Van Hecke. Pedro Porro is still there. Udogi is still there. Andy Robertson is a backup for Udogi. You're still expected to sign two attackers other than Savinho with, again, Marmoush and Gakpo. There is way more depth in the squad. You don't have European football. You have, again, way more quality in comparison to other years. So I think they'll have a good season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them finishing even higher than 6th. So yeah, that is my final Premier League table for the season. Let me know if you guys would have anything different than I would. And yeah, let's get on with the season. I'm super excited and lots of content on the way.